Welcome to a special Mother's Day episode of The Weekly Show with Trevor McManus. I am Trevor McManus. Going to jump right into it. Joining me today is a history professor from West Virginia's Wesleyan College. She's the utmost expert when it comes to the history of Mother's Day. My guest today is Dr. Katharine Antolini. Doc, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I want to start off by saying Mother's Day is right around the corner. It's a nice little holiday to celebrate your mom, your grandmother, and anyone else who's mom-like in your life. But I was sort of shocked to find out that I sort of had blinders on when it came to Mother's Day this whole time. Looking over your resume, you are really good with the learning and the teaching stuff. It's unbelievable. But I want to first ask you right now, how did you become so enthralled with the history of Mother's Day?
Well, I was invited. I was in graduate school, and I was invited to speak at the International Mother's Day Shrine, which hosted the very first Mother's Day in 1908. So in the 60s, the building, the church that hosted the first Mother's Day became a shrine. So I was invited to speak there just about the history of Mother's Day, or motherhood, actually. So I'm there talking about the history of motherhood, and they're telling me about Mother's Day, and I stumble across all these documents they had, of Anna Jarvis, and they were in a box on the basement of their kitchen. And I'm like, you can't leave these, precious documents just in a box in the kitchen. So I spent an entire summer helping them archive them. So I'm archiving all these documents of Anna Jarvis, and I'm reading about her Mother's Day movement, what Mother's Day meant for her, and her 40-year fight to protect it from being commercialized. And I just was, it hooked me, and I'm like, well, I'm going to have to learn as much as I can about this woman.
Can you give us the backstory of Anna Jarvis and really the story behind the original Mother's Day?
Well, it's a long story. The actual origins of Mother's Day really begins with the American Civil War. West Virginia, it became a state during the war. It broke off from Virginia. What became the western counties of West Virginia were in the midst of, it was literally brother against brother. And so Anna Jarvis' mother was Anne Marie Reeves Jarvis. And Anne Jarvis, her mother, was big in the community and was trying to keep her community together. And so in the midst of the war, she tried to get all the mothers and all the surrounding communities to come together to keep, literally, because families being torn apart by the American Civil War. So she's trying to keep families together throughout the war. When the war is over and these veterans were coming back, there was still a lot of animosity. So Anna Reeves Jarvis created what was known as the Mother's Friendship Day. And she brought all the mothers who had sons who fought on both sides of the war come together and try to reconcile. And so it was kind of a homecoming, a peace day, but using the idea that you love your mother and your mother wants the best for you. So your mother's helping to heal a community. So that was in 1868. So Anne Jarvis, or Anna Jarvis, the daughter, when her mother dies in 1905, Anna Jarvis wanted to remember her mother and wanted to create a day in honor of all mothers who, served their families. And it was something that Anne Jarvis, her mother, really wanted. She wanted a day for mothers to really be appreciated. So it was Anna Jarvis, the daughter, who promised on her mother's grave that she will create this holiday. So once a year, everybody will slow down and remember the woman who dedicated their lives to your rearing. So it's a kind of a long, complicated history, but it was really a daughter wanting to show love for her mother and everything her mother had done.
We're speaking with a doctor of history. She's the utmost expert when it comes to Anna Jarvis and Mother's Day in general. I'm speaking with Katharine Antolini. Katharine, to me, I think one of the most interesting parts of the story is the struggle over where the apostrophe goes in Mother's Day. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Anna Jarvis wanted the day to be for your mother. So it was possessive singular. Right, your mother. It doesn't matter about everybody else's mother. It was your mother. It's the one woman, who dedicated her life to you. So Mother's Day being, the kind of possessive plural, was used by floor industries. It was used by charities to try and expand the meaning of Mother's Day to, you buy things, you contribute money to charities. And Anna didn't want that. Anna wanted to be a day with just you and your mother, not anybody else's mother, your mother, and what she did for you. And she also thought of Mother's Day as a home day, that you come home to your mother. And if you can't come home, write her a letter. and tell her how much he meant. So she was really upset when other groups tried to make Mother's Day something that beyond the family. To her, it was just a family event. And when commercial industries or charities tried to push it to encompass larger community events or to make money off of it, that's what really bothered her, because it wasn't about that. It was about a very intimate relationship between you and your mother.
One author describes Anne Marie as someone who, quote, could convince the devil to put down his pitchfork. She just had a way about her. Is it fair to describe Anna Jarvis in the same breath as her mother?
Yes, Anna Jarvis was also a very formidable force, as her mother was. So, like mother, like daughter. They had that. They were both portrayed as very strong-willed, independent women. So that's true.
We're speaking with Wesleyan professor Katharine Antolini. Doc, the first official Mother's Day celebration was held May 10th, 1908 at Andrews Methodist Church in Grafton, where Anna's mother taught Sunday school. Was there a particular reason why Anna didn't attend the ceremony?
Anna left Grafton when she was in her late 20s. So about 1898, Anna leaves Grafton to go live with her brother in Philadelphia. Her brother, Claude, owned a very successful taxi cab service. So she went to live with her brother. So she was actually in Philadelphia when she started her Mother's Day movement, because she had been living there since 1898. Right before Anne Jarvis died, right before Mrs. Jarvis died, she moved into Philadelphia with her children. So Mrs. Jarvis actually died in Philadelphia. And so Anna was trying to build her movement. Excuse me. Anna was trying to build her movement in two different places. She was living in Philadelphia with her brother, but she knew how important it was, because very much Mother's Day being in honor of her own mother, wanting Grafton and her mother's home church to also be a part of it. So on May 10th, 1908, there were two Mother's Day services. So the first one was held in Grafton at her mother's church, and about 400 people showed up for that. Then Anna, being in Philadelphia, hosted a much larger one with the help of John Wanamaker, and there was 15,000 who came to the one in Philadelphia. So that's why she couldn't be at both places. But Grafton officially counts as the first service because the ceremony in Grafton happened in the morning, and the ceremony in Philadelphia then happened in the afternoon. So that was why.
Katharine, I was reading that Anna Jarvis claimed the copyright and ownership over Mother's Day. Is that true? And what did that mean exactly? Did she think she could stop people who, in her eyes, were improperly using Mother's Day?
Exactly. She considered her intellectual property. What happens is, well, Mother's Day becomes a national holiday in the U.S. by 1914. But every state was already celebrating Mother's Day before the federal government finally acknowledged it as a national holiday. So she very much took ownership of it early. It was her movement. She's the one that wrote all these governors of all these states to issue these Mother's Day proclamations every year. So the time President Wilson officially makes it a holiday, it's already been celebrated, for the last couple years. So what she did in 1912 was she incorporated her own business, the Mother's Day International Association. So when she incorporated her own business, she trademarked the words Mother's Day. She trademarked the symbol of the white carnation, which became a symbol of the holiday. So she very much felt like anybody trademarks any of their, products. She very much felt Mother's Day was her intellectual property. And even when it became a national holiday in 1914, she didn't feel that changed anything. It was still, and she did hold copyrights, and in the United States and in Canada as well, held copyrights to the phrase Mother's Day and the second Sunday in May and the white carnation. So she did try to sue several people. It never was successful, but she fought it to the very end.
I'm speaking with a doctor. She's a professor at Wesleyan College, Katharine Antolini. Katharine, how would you describe Anna Jarvis's life? Is it a tragedy, triumph, or maybe both?
It's a mixture of both. I mean, again, this is the woman whose name will always be tied to Mother's Day. It was certainly her efforts that made it such a big holiday. And to her, she didn't like it called a holiday. It was a holy day. That's why she really wanted it to be celebrated on a Sunday. So it would be a holy day. But it wore down. I mean, this is a woman who spends the last 4 years of her life in a sanitarium. She's destitute. She spent all of her money trying to fight all these different groups who are trying to, in her opinion, steal her day. So she ended up alone, almost alone, in her last 4 years, blind, broke, kind of described as being kind of bitter. So she, I think in all the story of Mother's Day, she's both a triumphant figure in what she was able to accomplish, but also a very tragic figure because it consumed her entire adult life, and it really in the end took everything out of her. But it was what was important to her.
Obviously, this story has affected your life enough that you base your academic career around. So how do you celebrate Mother's Day?
Well, we go to the shrine. So we go to Grafton. Grafton hosts a Mother's Day service every year, so we do that. And, of course, my mother comes in, and I don't buy my mother flowers, so I respect Anna for that. What I do wear, my oldest son, when he was in elementary school, made me a flower. Like kids, how they make flowers out of their handprints. So that's what I wear every year. So I always felt Anna would appreciate that. So what's important to me is that my son bought me flowers, is that he made me a flower when he was a little boy, and so I wear that every year. So, but we do go to the Mother's Day Shrine, and we, do what we can to honor the history of the day and the history of the Jarvis family and the history of mothers and everything they have contributed to, society.
So if I make a crepe for my mom this Sunday, is anyone going to look down upon me?
No, that's good. Anything that you make for her out of love is good. Anything that's homemade is better than anything bought.
My guest today is a doctor of history. She's a professor at West Virginia's Wesleyan College, and she knows her stuff when it comes to Mother's Day. Dr. Katharine Antolini, thank you so much for enlightening me, and thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We'll be right back with part 2 of the weekly show with the lovely Sharon Vindering. She is the president of the Parent Tested, Parent Approved. You're watching the weekly show with Trevor McManus.